Hey, what's up, everybody? And welcome to Catalyst for Change podcast, where you get to meet another member of your professional health and fitness team. And today we got Danielle Ivie. She is a doctor of physical therapy. She is the owner of Powered by Movement Physical Therapy, and she is a regular member of our health and fitness, professional health and fitness team. And my name is Jim Adams. I'm the owner of Catalyst Personal Training in University City. And I am your host, and I'm just trying to keep up with Danielle because she's a lot smarter than me. So today we're going to be talking about pain, as Clubber Lang said in the Rocky movies. I'm dating myself. Yes, I'm old. But Danielle, you said something really interesting to me, because I know trainers and a lot of PTs for that matter, they, worship movement. Like, if your movement's clean, if we are able to fix your movement, you got pristine movement, then you shouldn't have any pain. And you say that's not always the case, right?
Right. And I will start by saying that I'm definitely a big believer in movement, powered by movement, right? That's like the foundation. But movement in the sense of strictly biomechanics and how you move is not always the end all be all when we're experiencing pain. And pain is very multifactorial. So I think that if we as healthcare providers or any kind of health and fitness professional, if we're telling or sending a message to our clients saying that if you move like this, you're going to have pain. If you move like this, you're not going to have pain. That's just a bad message to send, in my opinion, because we're not letting them know or treating them as whole humans, which we all are. Like, you can't tell someone, if you eat peanut butter, you'll be full. If you eat an apple, you won't be, so it's the same as anything else. It's complex, and biomechanics are definitely a huge piece of the puzzle and can solve a lot of pain. But I've also come across a lot of clients that come to me and they're confused because they say, I fixed my squat and I still feel pain. And so we dive deeper into the different facets of pain and why you might be experiencing it and what to do about it.
Okay, well then let's do that, because I know, that's one thing. I'm a big believer in movement and quality movement. And I think that is a big precursor if you want to eliminate pain. But like you said, there are other factors to pain. So, so what are some of those other factors that you have to pay attention to?
Yeah. So number one, we always address movement, right? Like you said, there's so much research out there that predispose you to different injuries and things like that based on good quality movement. But I want to talk about, like, say you have good quality movement and you've worked on these things and you're still experiencing pain, which can happen. Number one, I tell people that that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're doomed. It doesn't mean that there's no hope. It just means that maybe there's underlying things going on. And the big thing to think about too is, depending on the severity of your injury, say you strain a muscle, and after 4 or 5 weeks, if you're experiencing any pain, it's likely not due to tissue damage, because those tissues have had time to heal. They've had time to recuperate. So one of the things I ask off the bat first is about sleep, or how much sleep are you getting? And some people need more than others. I'm a big sleeper. I need a solid 8. Some people are okay with 6, but it's more about, what is your pattern? So in the last several months, have you slept how you usually do? What is the quality of your sleep? That's number one, what we address, because that's when we recover, right? You don't get stronger in the gym, you get stronger when you sleep. Mm-hmm. Number two, we talk about is nutrition. I can't tell you how many times I've had people who are not eating enough when they're injured, because we think like, oh, our activity level is low, so I'm not going to eat as much because I'm not moving as much. But then you're not fueling your body. You don't have the nutrients to support injury healing. Another thing with not fueling your body well, especially if it's in combination with less sleep, is it drops your energy. If I've had conversations with clients who aren't even eating enough to sustain laying in bed all day, and I'm like, that's why you're tired,
Yeah,
like
their BMR. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Your basal metabolic rate. So nutrition and sleep are very, I think, overlooked, but simple factors we can dive into that help. Another thing is both daily stressors and chronic stress. So is work stressing you out? Are you finding that you're in more of a stressful time with your kids or in your marriage? Have you put in place strategies? And this is not saying that like these conversations come up. A physical therapist is not the best to handle all of these things. We just want to find someone to dive into, like, if our mechanics are not fixing your pain, are there other avenues we can address? Because sometimes finding the appropriate person to help you cope with stress can work wonders, because when you're stressed, everything hurts, right?
Mhm.
Another big one that I find people overlook that personal trainers, health and fitness providers really can help with is light activity. So cool, you're getting in your hour workout every day, but are you sitting on your butt for 9 hours, or are you getting up, going on short walks? There's been more research coming out on metabolic health and how doing light activity like 15 minutes after each meal is very healthy for you and helps kind of increase metabolism and support all of the processes we need to give us energy and improve our metabolic health. And so that's something we don't think about. We sit at our desk for 9 hours and then we lift for an hour and we're like, I'm good.
Right. Exactly.
So that's a lot of stuff, but there's
Okay.
so many different things that we want to look into when movement alone is not helping our pain.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. And I know you said that PTs aren't the best person to help you with this, and neither are personal trainers, physical therapists, or personal trainers. But at the same time, it's something that has to be addressed, because you're coming to us with a goal, right? Your goal
Yes.
is either to return to work, return to play, eliminate pain, restore movement, whatever it may be. And all of these factors affect that. So they can't be ignored, even though they fall out of our professional scope of practice. We still have to
Right.
be somewhat, we have to be able to have an intelligent conversation about
Mhm.
these things, because they do affect your goals, correct?
Absolutely. And I think I tell a lot of my clients, my goal is to help you improve as a human. I'm not just looking at a knee. I'm not just looking at a shoulder. Like you are a whole human and we need to figure out everything that's going on. And I describe to them like I'm the gatekeeper. I'm going to figure out what's going on. And then if I'm not the best person to help you get to your goals, I will find you someone that is. And I think often what's missed though is that either as a client or as a provider or a health and fitness professional, we get into our kind of zone of like,
Mhm.
I'm a PT, I do movement. I'm a personal trainer, I make you strong. I'm a client, I'm going to a PT, so I want to do clamshells, not like, oh, why are you asking me about my sleep? You know what I mean? So looking at it more of like, we are here for whole human health, not just one facet of it. And even though, like you said, we may not be professionally within our scope to dive into and treat the things we find out, we should definitely be able to have conversations, listen, and find out what those things are. And that way we lift everyone up together, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Yep. If everybody's in the boat and the water starts to rise, we all rise together. So, well, let's jump into each one of those. Sleep. So I'll start with what I know about sleep. And most of this is when you don't get enough or get it high enough quality. Number one, it makes it harder to lose weight, because you don't get that reset button for your glucose tolerance, right? So
Right.
your blood sugar, so your liver releases glucose, so your glucose tolerance goes up, which means it makes it easier for you to gain weight and harder for you to lose weight. So I do know that from a weight loss perspective. If you want to lose weight or even lose a certain type of weight, say body fat, right? Then you got to get sleep. It's
Mhm.
essential. And then the other thing is we have this lymphatic system that helps our body detoxify. And we move, you have these lymph nodes, lymph glands throughout your body. And when you move, it's like acting like a pump, right? It turns
Right.
them on and they start pumping, and you can detoxify your body. And we've all, seen people that have like a swollen lymph gland or a blocked lymph gland, and can see their arm just kind of swells up. They get what do you call edema
Lymphedema.
throughout their, yeah, throughout their arm. So I think that's really important. But the reason that relates to sleep is that your brain does the same thing. When your brain has the same system, it's a little bit different, but it's the same system. So when you sleep, it cleans all of the crap out of your brain, right? So you
Right.
wake up with like a clean slate. It's like emptying the trash on your computer. All of a sudden you have all this free hard drive space to use, right? So it's the
Right.
same thing with your brain. So that's what I know about sleep and why it's important. What do you have to add to that?
Yeah, so I think that you've covered it really well. I mean, we could dive into the nitty gritty of sleeps, but you're absolutely right. What it comes down to is I think a lot of us know that sleeping is a good thing. And I will say, like, even as someone who sits here and talks about sleep, like, we can all improve how we sleep. And
Mhm.
absolutely, your muscles recover, your brain recovers. I really like your phrase. Like, I'm very big on keeping everything simple, like, clear out the trash by sleeping. Like, that's my favorite thing of what you just said. It clears out the trash. The problem with sleep is not that any of us don't want it, it's that we don't practice very good sleep hygiene. And, like, in the sense of, I tell everyone, like, do you brush your teeth? Yes. So why don't you go to bed at the same time every night? You brush your teeth because you don't want your teeth to fall out. Well, if you want to feel good, do you go to sleep at the same time? And I think that it's overwhelming though, because when we talk about all these factors with pain, um, we as humans want to do everything all at once. So we say, like, okay, I'm going to go to bed at 8 o'clock. I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. I'm only going to eat vegetables and I'm not going to be stressed about anything ever. And it's like, okay, see you in a day, you know?
That's called death. That's what
Yeah,
that's called.
exactly.
The absence of
Exactly.
stress is called death. I
Right.
don't
But
think
we
that's
have
anyone's
this like
goal.
all or nothing mentality. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. We do need good stress. Good stress is good.
Mhm.
But I think, like, with sleep, it's one of the hardest things to get for so many reasons. You have kids, you have a job, you have a TV, you have a phone, you have a computer, you have a screen on your watch that you sleep with. Like, there's so many things coming at us, that it gets overlooked. But I think the benefits of sleep are never overstated. Like, that is what we need. And I honestly forget the source, but I was reading something that was like, if sleep wasn't important, we would have evolved past it by now. And we haven't. So clearly we're doing something right by sleeping. Um, a little bit off topic, but more into like how to implement better sleep. What I tell people that is the most simple thing is just set a schedule. Like, use your bed for sleep. Don't bring your electronics in. And when it is whatever time you want to go to bed, that's when you go up, and like building that discipline. And a lot of these factors that we're talking about require a different set of discipline and skills to set yourself up for successful habits.
Yeah, I agree. And I used to suffer from insomnia. And then somebody told me that about the bed. So now I only go to bed when I want to sleep, be that a nap or to go to sleep for the night. And that's helped me quite a bit. But there's tons of books that you can read that can help you with sleep. I mean, there's
Yeah.
tons of research. You don't even have to buy a book. You can just go online to Dr.
Right.
Google. But the other thing is that when it helps reset, it's a great reset button. It's like, turning your phone off and on, right? It's a great reset. So it resets your nervous system as well. And so when you don't get enough sleep, your pain tolerance is impacted in a negative way, right? You can't tolerate as much pain, correct?
Yeah, and it's similar to when you're under chronic stress or increased daily stressors in your life, because when you don't get enough sleep, you don't clear out as much
Mhm.
excuse me, you increase your cortisol levels, and that's what
Yep.
increases your perception of pain and distress, and that fight or flight response of, like, I'm not surviving in
Mhm.
our most primal state. Um,
Yep.
and so that ties very nicely into kind of eliminating the stressors in your life so that you can sleep. I'm someone, like, I'll give an example. I have never suffered from insomnia, but I'm someone where I need to, like, kind of wind down my brain before I go to
Mhm.
bed. Or I go to bed and I go, oh, this business idea. And I'm thinking about it for 3 hours and it's 2 in the
Uh-huh.
morning. And you're like,
The monkey
oh no.
brain, that's what I call
Yeah.
that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it is. If I don't, I can't read about, like, I love my job. So if I
Mhm.
read about it at night, I keep thinking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's simple things like that. Like you said, like, you use your bed for sleep, not thinking about work, not doing stuff like that. Kind of finding that routine that brings your stress levels down to
Mhm.
get you relaxed. And there's a
Yeah.
lot
And
of ways to do that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ways that you can eliminate stress. I know one of the ones I used to push it all the time is meditation. And somebody told me like meditation is a tool to get to a destination. You know, it's like a either car, planes, trains, and automobiles, right? They'll all get you there. It's just which one you prefer. But I know that I started meditating and it really made a difference for me. It's from the standpoint of I used to think that I had to act on every thought, had to act on every impulse. And when I started meditating, I started realizing that I don't. I can kind of let that kind of go off and do its own thing. Because before I would, create these stories in my head that, would create stress in my life and all of these events that I would worry about that really never came to pass. Right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so meditation has really helped me become more proactive in my life, meaning I want to focus on this, and I want everything, all my resources in this direction, versus a reactive where I'm getting up and I'm just putting out fires wherever that find them with no plan, no direction whatsoever. And then that creates anxiety and stress in my life, and then that affects my ability to sleep, be productive, all of those things. So, I push meditation, but I know it's not the end all be all for everybody as far as stress.
Right. And I think that that's a very important message, is that nothing is the end all be all, right? Like it's
Mhm.
a lot of, every piece of life is trial and error. We have all this data. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, let's try something else. And I like what you said about being proactive about the things you're thinking about and where you're placing your energy, because I think that mindset shift, whether you get it from meditation or you get it from a book or from feeling like, oh, I chose to go on a short walk after breakfast and I feel great and I'm ready to go to my job now.
Mhm.
Wherever you can find that flip is great,
Mhm.
because it gives you your power back. You know that I think a lot of us become stressed out when we feel like we're not in control.
Right.
And so finding those things that make you feel in control. Is it going to bed at 10 o'clock every night? Is it going on a 15-minute walk after you eat your breakfast? Is it making sure you eat vegetables at every lunch? Whatever, however small it is, when you feel
Mhm.
like you have autonomy over your health and your body and your choices, then like things start to level out. And that's
Yeah.
when we start to see progress. And that can really affect pain. And I think it took me a while to figure that out, because I would be, you come out of school and you're like, okay, squeeze your butt, squeeze your traps. It's going to feel great. And then some people just hurt. And I'm like, what? And then they come back, I feel great. And I'm like, what's different? Like, oh, I slept great last night. And you're like,
Right. Mhm.
duh, so it's just something we don't think about a lot, but it's worth talking about, because sometimes movement isn't the only thing. It's
Yeah.
big thing, but it's not
I
the only
agree with you 100%. And that's why I'm glad you're on the team to bring this up. And then you also mentioned nutrition. We all know nutrition is important, but especially if you're in pain or if you're injured or recovering. Like I just recently had surgery to repair my tricep. And I know when you are injured and recovering from injury, your protein needs go up, right?
Yes,
So if
absolutely.
you're not feeding your body, then you're hurting your recovery, correct?
Absolutely. And it is a very common theme I see, because especially for someone like you, you're very active. So when you get an injury, you're not quite as active as you used to be. So a lot
Mhm.
of times we don't feel as hungry. So it can
Mhm.
be hard to maintain the right nutrition. It's either that, or sometimes people fear gaining weight when they're injured because you can't do the kind of exercise you want to do. And so we cut all these calories and we don't eat enough protein and the carbohydrates that fuel you throughout the day and things like that. And it's definitely, your protein intake goes up. You need all the same nutrients you need even when you're exercising, like maybe a little less water if you're not fully sweating, like if you aren't running and you used to. But I think the nutrient demands are the same. The only thing that might be slightly different depending on the intensity of your workouts is a caloric deficit, but it's not
Right.
as big as people think it is. Like I
Right.
think we cut in half when really it's like, okay, you need 10% less, not
Yes.
cut half of your food out. And then you're feeling tired, you're sluggish. It's everything's draining. Then you don't sleep because you're stressed, because you feel tired. It's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. I know the one that I can fall into if I'm not careful, and I've gotten a lot better at this, is when I get, like, say when I was recovering from my, tricep surgery.
Yeah.
So what do? I sit in the chair and I watch Netflix. And what do you do when you watch Netflix? You
Eat
nosh,
chips.
right? You eat chips and all this other crap, so not only are you getting less nutrition, less calories in, less macros, but like the quality of nutrition can go way down. So it's important. I agree with you. I think if you're injured, you're not as active, I think your caloric needs do decrease.
Absolutely.
But not the quality of your nutrition or your macros, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, I think you're right. It's either, I see two things, and we see a lot, but generally the themes are two things. It's one, people eat the same kinds of food, but they cut them in half and they don't eat enough. Or two, like you said, you watch Netflix, you do these things, you have more time, you can't work out, so you go out to eat, you drink a beer, you do whatever, and you're just eating these like high calorie, low nutrient dense foods that then probably don't help your fitness goals and also make you feel bad. And just you aren't feeling like yourself, which you already aren't feeling like yourself when you're injured. And it's interesting, we both see a lot of athletes, and like as an athlete, when I got hurt, I went through the same thing, because when you have a goal and you're training for something, you're very disciplined. Like, I need to eat this because I need to fuel, and I need to work out well, and I need to train well. And then you stop, and we don't realize that now you have to eat even better and be even better to your body. So because you're not at your best, and we do the opposite. We're like, it's fine, I'm not training. And you just, so I think that's very important.
I'm off everything. Yeah.
Right. I'm off. I don't need to sleep. I don't need to eat. I don't need to move.
In the story I tell my clients all the time, and I was training this guy, and he came in for back pain, but he was a triathlete, and he was first wanting to get out of back pain, and two, then train for his competitions. So we got him out of back pain, and then we started training for competition, and we come up with a training plan. And I said, okay, now let's talk about your nutrition. He said, no, I don't want to mess with that right now. I said, okay, well then we'll just keep training you. And so all of his performance started to improve, and then he plateaued. He said, okay, let's get back. Let's talk about nutrition. Perfect. So we talked about his nutrition. We changed it up. His performance started to improve again. And then he came in one day, and he was just sluggish. I could tell he was off, right? So I said, Eric, what's going on? He was like, oh man, last weekend I just, I went back to eating the way I used to eat, and I feel like crap. I said, you know what? I go, you felt like that all the time.
Yeah.
But you just didn't realize it until you felt better. You didn't know how bad you were feeling until you felt better. And I think there's a lot of people walking around in that situation
that don't know how good they can feel.
Exactly.
Right. And I love that, because that's my favorite thing to tell people about movement, but it's so true with sleep, nutrition, and these other factors, is that my first thing I tell people is like, do you know that it's possible to move without pain? And people are like, no, and you teach them how to move better, and they get out of pain. Same exact thing. Like, do you know how good you could feel if you eat these things? And our bodies are so resilient that once you give your body the nutrients and the macros that it needs, then your body loves it and it rewards you for it. You don't crave chips anymore. You don't want a chocolate bar, your body wants those things because it feels good when you give it to them. It can change your whole life.
Danielle, you're wrong. I will always want chips.
That's fair enough.
But I got to do it. I got to do it in moderation.
Chocolate.
Chocolate I'm good with, but chips, man, I think that's always going to be a weakness for me.
Fair enough. You deserve some chips.
Yeah. And then I like what you said about activity, because I read a study that said, if you're only moving, if you're only exercising 1 hour a day, then it doesn't make any difference.
Nope.
Because what you're doing the other 23 hours completely overshadow what you do in that hour. So it's got to be, like you said, those little 15-minute windows of, going for a walk after lunch or after dinner or after a meal, or just kind of getting up and moving around and stretching out and getting some blood flow through your body. If you combine that with a structured workout program and just regular activity, then you start to see the benefits of the activity. But a lot of people just depend on that one class or that one training session they do oh, I'm good. And then they go back to sitting or not doing anything.
Yeah, and that's interesting you bring that up, because there's so much research coming out about light activity and its role in metabolic health, and what you were talking about with like insulin sensitivity and glucose and things like that. I actually just read one this morning that was saying that going on even a brisk walk for 10 minutes within 15 minutes after you eat, so like breakfast, lunch, dinner, can lower blood glucose levels and improve your insulin sensitivity even more than just doing that 1 hour intense workout, because of the timing of that activity with your food and how it digests and affects your metabolism. It's really interesting. And I think that's something that people should consider, because like for you have a triceps injury, you can still walk.
Right.
Like,
absolutely.
so you eat your meal or your chips when you're watching Netflix, and then you go for a walk.
Right, exactly.
You can make it happen, and it's like small changes that can make it better.
My girlfriend keeps trying to sneak in like cauliflower chips and everything, but I catch them every time.
Like, these aren't Doritos.
Exactly. Yeah, life is too short for cauliflower chips. That's what I tell her. But okay, so anything else that you want to throw in there? We've covered, movement, we covered sleep, we've covered nutrition, stress, activity, light activity. And the thing that I want to emphasize in that is that it doesn't have to be anything major. It can be literally a walk around the block, right?
Yeah. Or
Anything that just
to put your dishes away.
Yeah, just some kind of movement, some kind of activity. Doesn't have to be a major thing, right? Doesn't have to be like a 5K run.
It can be walking upstairs, grab a cup from your room and walk back down. Like, it's just that frequent movement versus just statically sitting.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So pain and movement aren't necessarily connected, right? So you have to pay attention to both, but movement is important, but so is getting out of pain. I mean, because the buzzword these days is inflammation, right? So whatever reduces your inflammation, and I don't want to jump into that pool because it's pretty crowded. But all of these things will help. So Danielle, as always, it's a pleasure talking to you. And where can people get in touch with you, find out more information, reach out to you, all that good stuff?
Yep, absolutely. Our website is www.poweredxmovement.com. And you can follow us on all social media at poweredxmovement.com. Feel free to reach us at those websites, or we have our phone number and emails listed on there as well.
Yep. And I say this all the time, but definitely follow her Instagram. She has some really good stuff when it comes to movement do's and don'ts as far as quality movement. So I really appreciate it. And you can reach out to me at info@catalyststl.com, or you can go to catalyststl.com. That's our website. We're running a special this week. If you come in, we'll give you 7 days free. And that includes our health and history assessment, which looks at comorbidity factors. Cool. So it looks like COVID isn't going away anytime soon. So we got to learn how to live with it. And people who have less comorbidities fare better when they do get COVID. So be sure to take advantage of that. And until next time, we hope you guys are well.
Have a good one. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Danielle.